Thank you. It's okay now. Okay, so when I arrived in Dharamsala 1987, I was ordained by His Holiness the 14th Dalai Lama, which I consider Papa Chenezik or Avalokiteshvara. And then 1988, I went to Nepal, and then 1988, after Nepal, I joined Ganden Shatse Monastery, and the abbot at that time was the great erudite master, Kyabje Zong Rinpoche. He was a pure monk, a great Kadamba master, a great erudite teacher of Sutra and Tantra, and a very close student of Kyabje Zong Rinpoche, Kyabje Chujang Rinpoche, Kyabje Zime Rinpoche, Kyabje Lati Rinpoche, and so on. And so I came to Ganden Shatse Monastery. Geshe Tsudam Gyaltsen stayed in America. Geshe Losang Tarchin Rinpoche stayed in America, and they both congratulated me. They were very happy for me. And I went to India, and I got ordained by His Holiness and joined Ganden Shatse Monastery in 1988, January, just before Tibetan New Year's, Losar. And when I entered the monastery, the abbot was Kyabje Zong Rinpoche. And in the monastery, he consequently became my main teacher, and I studied my teachings and philosophy under him as my main teacher. And I took a little bit of teachings from, also from the great Geshe Namgyal Wangchen and Loseling, but I primarily stuck with Kyabje Zong Rinpoche. And I had the great fortune that he also lived with me in the monastery, and I was able to serve him. And so from 1988, 89, 90, 89, 90, 91, 92, 93, 94, 95, 96, everything's fine. And then in 1996, suddenly we hear Dorje Shugden is negative, Dorje Shugden is evil, Dorje Shugden is bad, Dorje Shugden is banned. We all have to give up Dorje Shugden, or we have to leave the monastery. You have to understand, contrary to what some people like to portray, it was not a choice. It was not an advice. We were told to give up Dorje Shugden. We were forced to give up Dorje Shugden. We were given the option. If you give up Dorje Shugden, you can stay in the monastery. If you continue to practice Dorje Shugden, you have to leave. You have to understand something. In the whole history of Ganden Shatse Monastery, from the time the great King of Dharma, Lama Tsongkhapa Chenpo, started Ganden Monastery 600 years ago till now, there is no rule and regulation, whether it's the Vinaya or whether it's the Ganden Shatse rules, that what protector you practice or don't practice determines whether you get kicked out of the monastery or stay in the monastery. You can be even a Benpo. You can be even a Benpo practitioner and stay in the monastery. You can be a Kagyu practitioner and stay in the Gelugpa monastery. You can be a Nyingma practitioner. We had Kagyupa. We had beautiful, wonderful Kagyupa monks in Ganden Shatse Monastery studying. They were practicing Guru Rimchi and their own Kagyu, beautiful, wonderful rituals in Ganden Shatse. There was no issues at all. Nobody in Ganden Shatse, whether it was Kyabje Chujang Dorje Chan, Kyabje Zong Dorje Chan, Kyabje Lati Rinpoche, Kyabje Jamba Yeshe Rinpoche, Shaba Jeji Yesung Losang Nima Rinpoche, Kyabje Rinpoche, Kari Kentru Rinpoche, Kyabje Zime Rinpoche. I mean, there were so many great masters and teachers in Ganden Shatse. We all did Dorje Shugden pujas together many times, all right? Not once in Ganden Shatse did any masters tell us or me, you can't go to any other teachings if you practice Dorje Shugden, or the Nyingma is bad, or the Kagyu is bad. I have never heard one single Ganden Shatse monk or practitioner of Dorje Shugden Ganden Shatse, which was the majority, criticize, say anything negative about another Buddhist sect, another school of Buddhism, or any other practice. We all study Lama Tsongkhapa's teachings. We study Buddha's teachings. We study the teachings of the great Pandits of Nalanda, the 16 ornament, the 16 jewel pandits and the 2 ornaments. That's the 18 great pandits of Nalanda Monastery. We studied the text of Panchen Sonam Chakpa. We studied commentaries. We received initiation and teachings. Well, I already received all my initiations at Kyabje Zong Rinpoche. And there was not one word or whisper of anything like that. Because you see, Kyabje Pabongka said very clearly in the Lamrin Lachang, in the enlightenment in the palm of your hand, His Holiness Kyabje Pabongka Dorje Chang Deching Ningpo said very clearly, anyone who criticizes another form of Buddhism collects the negative karma of killing 1,000 Buddhas. That's how detrimental it was. Because when you criticize other dharmas, you influence others not to practice and you push them away from becoming enlightened. Whether it's the Nyingma teachings, Ningche, Kagyu teachings, Gache, or whether it's the Sakya teachings, Sache, or the Gelugpa teachings, Geluki Che. Whatever teachings they were, if you were to criticize them, you collect the karma of killing 1,000 Buddhas. Imagine killing one animal, the karma is negative and it multiplies every day. Then imagine killing human beings, even worse. Imagine killing a monk or a holy nun, it's even more worse. Imagine killing a arhat. I mean, it's not possible for us to kill a Buddha because the Buddha has no karma to be harmed. But hypothetically, if we were to kill a Buddha, imagine the negative karma that we accrue. And so it's not one Buddha, the karma we accrue is 1,000 Buddhas if we criticize other teachings, other forms of Buddhism. So we as Gelugpa students in Ganden Shatse were never taught or told to criticize any form of Buddhism. I have never heard Kyabje Zong Rinpoche, Kyabje Lati Rinpoche, Khenso Jamba Yeshi Rinpoche, or Geshe Kunjo Tsering Rinpoche, or Shapa Chuchi Jesum Losan Nima, or His Holiness Ganden Chisur Rinpoche, Jesum Lunik Namya. He was also from Ganden Shatse. I was there when he was there. He's the 101st Ganden Chiba who's living in France now, 90 plus years old, a living Buddha. Ganden Chisur, Jesum Lunik Namgyal Doji Chang. You know, none of them criticized other sects or lineages. They all had great devotion to the Dalai Lama, as I have had. They all prayed for the Dalai Lama. They all did pujas for the Dalai Lama. All of us had Dalai Lama's picture in all of our houses and all of our rooms. We loved and adored and worshipped and believed and trusted the Dalai Lama. Everybody in Ganden Shatse Monastery. You have to understand, all these great lamas, you walk down the street, there's Lati Rinpoche, my God, that's a Buddha. You walk down the street there's Kyabje Zong Rinpoche, another Buddha. You walk up the street, there's Khenso Jamba Yeshi, another Buddha. You walk this street, there's Geshe Kunjo Tsering. There's this Geshe, there's this Lama, there's Geshe Tenda, there's Ganden Chisur Rinpoche. Then there's so many lamas surrounding you. And they're also saintly. They were also holy. They were also pure monks. They were also gentle. They really were living atishas, outwardly showing pure monk vows, inwardly generating the bodhicitta of Mahayana bodhicitta, and secretly practicing Tantra and not showing off their abilities and their attainments. You're surrounded by these lamas. You're surrounded by these teachers. And all you ever get from them is love, compassion, dharma, holding your vows, study, teaching. None of these Gelugpa lamas in Ganden Shatse criticize the high lamas of other lineages. Nobody. Not one single one of these lamas practiced Dorje Shugden to harm the Dalai Lama or to harm Tibet or to damage others. There is no such thing. If you open up Dorje Shugden's prayers, there is nothing in there that tells you to harm another being, that tells you to harm the Dalai Lama. You have to understand something. Dorje Shugden is practiced by the highest lamas in the Gelugpa school of Buddhism. The highest lamas. So, Kyabje Trijaya Rinpoche practiced Dorje Shugden. He practiced it very strongly. He practiced it his whole life. Kyabje Trijang Dorji Chang was not a man. He was not an ordinary human being. He was a living Buddha. He was a living Bodhisattva. He was a living Arhat. He was a living Daka Dakini Dharma protector. He was a living Buddha, Kyabje Trijang Rinpoche. Nobody who met him was not affected by him. I never got the chance to meet Trijang Dorji Chang, but I met all his students, Kyabje Zong Rinpoche, Kyabje Zong Rinpoche, Lati Rinpoche, and I tell you, his students were so immaculately powerful and great and pure. Can you imagine the teacher? Trijang Rinpoche, out of all the monasteries, in Tibet, Ganden, Sera, Drepung, Ganden had 4,000 monks. Among them, you have hundreds of scholars. You had Sera Monastery that had 6,000 to 7,000 monks. Among them, hundreds of scholars. In Drepung Monastery, you had 10,000 monks. You had hundreds and hundreds of scholars. So out of 20,000 monks with thousands of scholars, Kyabje Trijang Rinpoche was one of the lamas selected by the regent of Tibet, by Nechung Protector, by the ministers of the government, to be one of the teachers of the 14 Dalai Lama's incarnation. His other teacher, of course, everybody knows, the root teacher is His Holiness Kyabje Ling Dorji Chang, Ling Rinpoche. So for 30 to 40 years, Ling Rinpoche, Kyabje Ling Dorji Chang, Kyabje Trijang Dorji Chang were the main teachers, the root teachers of everything from Ga Ka Ka Nga, learning the Tibetan alphabet, to studying the teachings of the great pandits of Nalanda, the commentaries by the Tibetan masters, along with getting the lineages of Sutra and Tantra. Ling Rinpoche and Trijang Rinpoche both initiated Dalai Lama, His Holiness Dalai Lama, into all the Tantras. Everything came from them. Everything. It's only later when the Dalai Lama got older, when he was in his 20s and 30s after 1959, then His Holiness started getting teachings from other great lineage lamas of other lineages. But from the time he was a very young child until he became a mature adult, everything for him to achieve his Geshe Haram teachings came from Kyabje Ling Rinpoche, Kyabje Trijang Rinpoche. So Kyabje Ling Rinpoche, Trijang Rinpoche were chosen by the oracles, by the high lamas, to be the direct teacher of the supreme king of Tibet, the Lama king of Tibet, His Holiness Dalai Lama. Dalai Lama is the incarnation of Chenezig. I don't care what other people say. I don't care what other people think. I don't care if people like him or not. In my heart, I believe His Holiness the Dalai Lama is Avalokiteshvara Chenezig, Papa Chenezig. I know some people don't like that. I don't, it doesn't matter. We all have our own path. I believe the Dalai Lama is Papa Chenezig. I still do, even with the Dorje Shugden ban. So, the king of Tibet, the sovereign of Tibet, the person who is going to be the ruler of all Tibet, is going to get the best training, the best tutors, and the best education that Tibet can offer. Don't you think so? So out of the best of the best of the best, on top of that, the best, Ling Rinpoche and Trijang Rinpoche were selected to be his personal teacher. Can you imagine His Holiness Papa Chenezig, Avalokiteshvara Dalai Lama, prostrated to Ling Rinpoche and Trijang Rinpoche? Dalai Lama prostrates to nobody. He is the greatest, he's the biggest, he is the highest Lama in Tibet. Okay, number 2 is Panchen Lama. Dalai Lama prostrates to nobody. Nobody. He's Chenezig, but he prostrated to these great teachers, which shows you that these two teachers are not ordinary. I was told from a very young age from hundreds of Geshes or Lamas, Ling Rinpoche, the previous Ling Rinpoche, was the incarnation of Yamataka himself. Kyabje Trijang Rinpoche was the incarnation of Hiruka and Vajrayogini, and everybody believed that. These monks were not normal. They were Mahasiddhas. So these great monks and teachers were the masters of Sutra and Tantra. They held all the lineages, and everything given to Trijang Rinpoche and Ling Rinpoche, they held perfectly. And they passed all these teachings to the Dalai Lama. And it was Trungpa Rinpoche who encouraged the Dalai Lama to do Dorje Shugden's practice also. And Dalai Lama practiced the Dorje Shugden practice for many decades until he was influenced later on. He manifested being influenced by Nechung. So what happened was, it's very simple. It is said now by detractors, if you practice Dorje Shugden, then you break your refuge vows and you are collecting negative karma and you will go to the 3 lower realms, which is either spirit or animal or hell. Nyesum, the 3 lower realms. So if you practice Dorje Shugden, you break your refuge vows. Your refuge vows is the foundation for you to get your monk vows. Gitsu and Gelong. Okay? So that's the foundation. Your refuge vows is the foundation for you to get your lower and higher Tantra teachings, whether it's Kriya, Yoga, Charya, or Maha Anuttara Yoga teachings and initiations. Without your refuge vows, everything's gone. Refuge vows is the foundation of the house. If the foundation is shaky, the walls will collapse, the roof will collapse. So, the foundation of the house is your refuge vows. The walls and pillars are like your sutra teachings. And the roof is like your Vajrayana teachings. Something similar like that. And what happens is that if your foundation is broken, the walls will collapse and the roofs will come down. So what the current people are saying is that if you practice Dorje Shugden, then you break your refuge vows. If you break your refuge vows, then you also break your tantric vows. You also become disrobed because you don't have those vows anymore. Is that correct? So Trungpa Rinpoche practiced Dorje Shugden his whole life. He never gave up Dorje Shugden his whole life. So if we will listen to today's detractors, today's naysayers, then Trungpa Rinpoche was disrobed. Trungpa Rinpoche's initiations and teachings become corrupted. And if Trungpa Rinpoche was disrobed, he wasn't really a monk, but he was living in a monastery receiving offerings of a monk. Very bad. On top of that, all his tantric teachings, all his tantric lineages, all his sutra lineages, all his oral transmissions and commentaries that he received from his gurus have become corrupt. So they have become corrupt. They were passed to the Dalai Lama. So the Dalai Lama has received corrupt teachings, corrupt lineages, corrupted tantric practices, because Trungpa Rinpoche is corrupt. If Trungpa Rinpoche is corrupt because he practiced Dorje Shugden, all his teachings are corrupt. So whatever teachings he passed to His Holiness the Dalai Lama are also corrupt and ineffective. So if we receive these teachings that Dalai Lama had received from Trungpa Rinpoche, for example, if Trungpa Rinpoche gave Dalai Lama the Hiruka Chakra Sambhara initiation teachings, the Hiruka Chakra Sambhara from Trungpa Rinpoche is corrupted, because Trungpa Rinpoche practiced Dorje Shugden, and therefore his vows are broken, and therefore he's impure. So therefore, the Hiruka Chakra Sambhara teachings given to His Holiness the Dalai Lama by Trungpa Rinpoche is corrupted. So any teachings on Hiruka from His Holiness the Dalai Lama is also corrupted. So if we receive the Hiruka teachings from His Holiness the Dalai Lama, and we practice this, and we meditate on this, we wouldn't get any attainments because it's corrupted. So if we receive this from Dalai Lama and then we give these Hiruka Chakra Sambhara teachings to other people, they also are getting corrupt teachings. So is that what everybody is saying? That's not possible. That is not possible. So on top of that, whatever teachings that Ling Rinpoche gave to Dalai Lama is also corrupted. Ling Rinpoche was an outright practitioner of Dorje Shugden, but he respected Dorje Shugden and composed prayers to Dorje Shugden. You can see on my blog site, tsemrinpoche.com, and you just Google Ling Rinpoche, you'll see I have texts that Ling Rinpoche also composed prayers to Dorje Shugden. It's very clear. Now, Ling Rinpoche's root guru was Kyabje Rinpoche. Trungpa Rinpoche's root guru was Kyabje Rinpoche. So Pabongka Rinpoche was a great practitioner of Dorje Shugden also. So if Pabongka Rinpoche practiced Dorje Shugden, he's also corrupted. Whatever teachings he gave to Ling Rinpoche is corrupted. Whatever teachings Ling Rinpoche gave to His Holiness the 14th Dalai Lama is also corrupted. So all the teachings that Dalai Lama is giving us that came from the Gelugpa lineage is supposed to be corrupted. So why is anybody going for teachings? Why is the Dalai Lama giving any teachings? Why are we going for teachings? They're corrupted because Ling Rinpoche's guru was a practitioner of Dorje Shugden. Ling Rinpoche's guru was a practitioner of Dorje Shugden, and Ling Rinpoche was corrupted. Whatever he had was corrupted because he practiced Dorje Shugden, and Ling Rinpoche gave those teachings to Dalai Lama. Basically, Pabongka Rinpoche, after he died, should go to the 3 lower realms. Ling Rinpoche should go to the 3 lower realms. Trungpa Rinpoche should go to the 3 lower realms too. But what's incredible is the Dalai Lama himself recognized the new Ling Rinpoche, the new Trungpa Rinpoche, and the new Pabongka Rinpoche. Now that contradicts. If these 3 great masters had connections to Dorje Shugden and 2 of them prayed strongly to Dorje Shugden, they would have gone to the 3 lower realms because they broke their refuge, right? If they broke their refuge, they went to the 3 lower realms. How come they have an incarnation back recognized by Dalai Lama? If Dalai Lama is recognizing these masters, on the other hand, it is said that if they practice Dorje Shugden, they go to the 3 lower realms. Which one is it? The new Trungpa Rinpoche, the new Ling Rinpoche, the new Pabongka Rinpoche are false incarnations recognized by Dalai Lama who had a mistake in recognizing them? I mean, it can't be both. Either you practice Dorje Shugden, you go to the 3 lower realms, or you practice Dorje Shugden, you don't go to the 3 lower realms. Very simple. So therefore, don't you think Kyabje Pabongka Rinpoche and Trungpa Rinpoche and Ling Rinpoche had clairvoyance? If they didn't have clairvoyance or the power of meditation, who would? So, if we were to say that Trungpa Rinpoche was wrong in practicing Dorje Shugden, and he can be wrong, then we can say that all the lamas can be wrong. If all the lamas can be wrong, then people will have to conclude the Dalai Lama can be wrong. I'm not saying the Dalai Lama is wrong. I'm saying that people can conclude the Dalai Lama can be wrong. Because how can it be that all lamas can make mistakes except the Dalai Lama? It's either certain high lamas who have high attainments cannot make mistakes, and among that is Trungpa Rinpoche and the Dalai Lama and the pension lamas. They can't make mistakes, they're highly realized, or all lamas make mistakes. I am not saying Dalai Lama makes mistakes. I am not saying Dalai Lama is ordinary. I am just giving hypothetical examples. So, if the Dalai Lama can make mistakes, then Trungpa Rinpoche can make a mistake. If Trungpa Rinpoche cannot make a mistake, then Dalai Lama cannot make a mistake. Because according to the Guru Panchasika, the 50 verses of Guru devotion by Ashvagosha, the great Indian Pandit that we all study, it says that we can never say our gurus made a mistake. We can never criticize our gurus. We can never go against our gurus or criticize the teachings he gave once we accepted that person as a guru. So once we've accepted that person as a guru, we cannot say that their teachings are wrong or they're wrong. That would go against the vows of Guru devotion. That would go against the etiquette of Guru devotion. So what's important to remember is, if Trungpa Rinpoche can be wrong, then every other Lama can be wrong. If the Dalai Lama can be wrong, then the ban against Dorje Shugden can be wrong. If people say the ban against if people say Trungpa Rinpoche was wrong to teach Dorje Shugden, what is there to say Dalai Lama was wrong to ban Dorje Shugden? I mean, if one Lama can be wrong, another Lama can be wrong. If one Lama can be not wrong, okay, all Lamas cannot be wrong. Which one do you want? I mean, how can everybody say the Dalai Lama is famous, he's well known, he's the highest ranking Lama, and based on his fame, his rank, and his popularity, he cannot be wrong? What leaders in the world are infallible and cannot be wrong? Either all leaders can be wrong, whether secular or spiritual, or they all cannot be wrong. So how come the Dalai Lama cannot be wrong in saying Dorje Shugden is negative, but all the other lamas who practice Dorje Shugden can be wrong? So that means in Tibet, no other lama has clairvoyance. No other lama has attainments. No other lama has spiritual achievements. Only the Dalai Lama. That's not possible. That's not possible. So, if people can say Trijayamji is wrong to teach Dorje Shugden, if Saramji is wrong to teach Dorje Shugden, they're masters, Geshe Hlarams, they're erudite Mahayogis, they're scholars. If they can be wrong, the Dalai Lama cannot be wrong. Where's the logic in that? Again, I am not trying to accuse or say the Dalai Lama is wrong. I'm debating. Tibetan monks debate. We debate things out, we think things out. But when the ban of Dorje Shugden started in 1996, we were never allowed to go meet His Holiness. We were never allowed to go and join His Holiness and go and say, hey, can we discuss this to see what's going on? It wasn't allowed. Any letters written to His Holiness, any letters written to the Tibetan government to explain why there's a ban on Dorje Shugden was never replied to. It was just banned. Dorje Shugden is bad. Dorje Shugden's practice brings you to the three lower realms. Dorje Shugden is evil. Dorje Shugden is negative, and you shouldn't practice. That's it. And people continue to practice. The monks protested in Ganden. I was there. I didn't protest, but the monks protested. When the monks protested, then His Holiness came out with a very powerful speech in Drepung that all monks who practice Dorje Shugden should be expelled from the monastery. But you have to understand, when we joined the monastery, there was no such rule that if you practice this or you practice that, you can't join the monastery. There was no such rule. That rule came about after 1996 ban. Okay? So from Ganden Shatsi, out of a population of 1,300 monks, 1,200, 1,300 monks, over 650 monks separated from the monastery and formed their own monastery. When they formed their own monastery, then the Tibetan government exile tried to close it. They tried to get the police to close it, but the new Dorje Shugden monastery called Sharganden Monastery is very smart because they had applied for a license. They already have a license to open their own temple, so it couldn't be closed. So these days, the Tibetan government likes to say, oh, guess what? They have the freedom to practice. See, they have their own monastery. It's not that we have our own monastery, we have the freedom to practice. It's that we were forced to open the monastery. We were kicked out of our monastery. We were expelled from our monastery. And we had nowhere to go. We had to open our own place. So it's not a freedom to practice. We're forced to hide in a corner to practice. On top of that, Dorje Shugden practitioners cannot go to any Tibetan hospitals. They cannot go to any Tibetan government offices. They cannot go to any Tibetan welfare offices. They cannot join any of the talks and teachings by the Dalai Lama. So Tibetan Dorje Shugden practitioners cannot go to any teachings, cannot go to any functions with the other Tibetans. Basically, if you practice Dorje Shugden and you're Tibetan, you stay away from the other Tibetans. It's like that. It's like that. So, Dorje Shugden practitioners cannot go to Dalai Lama's talks. If you say, I can't go to the Dalai Lama's teachings, I understand, because it's a spiritual thing. But the Dalai Lama is also a political leader. He's also a king of Tibet. And if he gives talks on Tibet's future, about politics, politics in the sense of the situation of Tibet in the world, if he talks about improvement, he talks about schools, I think all Tibetans should attend to be able to attend the Dalai Lama's talks. You know, I mean, just think if the president of some civilized country says, if you're a Catholic, you can't go to you can't come to my talks, all other religions can. Who can stand for that? Tibetans cannot go to Tibetan hospitals. We have Tibetan Ayurvedic hospitals, they call them Mensikang. We have Tibetan Western hospitals, Menkang. We have the Tibetan government in Dharamsala. We have the Department of Health, Department of Finance, Department of Ministers, Department of Religion. No Dorje Shugden practitioners are allowed to go. Even the children of Dorje Shugden practitioners cannot go to Tibetan schools. It is like that. It is like that. So, why is that? As a Tibetan, I can practice Buddhism, Dorje Shugdenism, Hinduism, Christianity, Islam, Taoism, Wiccanism, witchcraft, voodoo. As a Tibetan Pempo, I can practice any religion I like. And I have the right to enjoy the privileges and the rights and of any other Tibetan. So whatever other Tibetans have a right to, I should have a right to. I shouldn't be biased and prejudiced against Tibetan society because of my religion. I don't practice Dorje Shugden because I want to harm the Dalai Lama. I received Dorje Shugden when I was 18 years old from Kyabje Zong Rinpoche in 1983 when I was in Los Angeles. There was no ban, there was no Dorje Shugden issued there. I don't receive money from China. I wish China would give me money. If they gave me money, I'll give them my bank account. Who would say no to money? I mean, the Tibetan government gets money from England. They get billions of dollars from the US government. We all know that for sure. The Tibetan government subside and subsist on donations from Western countries. So they can get money from other governments. They don't make their own money. So if China is going to give anybody money, take it. What's the big deal? But I don't get money from China. I have never gotten money from China. I have no connections to the Chinese government. I don't mind having a connection to the Chinese government for spiritual reasons because I would love to go to China to teach Buddhism to Chinese people. Chinese people are beautiful, just like Tibetans who are beautiful. Everybody deserves the Buddha's teachings. As a Buddhist monk, I can teach Dharma to all beings equally, no matter what their race. So whether they're Chinese, they're Indian, they're Caucasians, they're Tibetans, they're Japanese, it doesn't matter. I can teach Dharma from the goodness, with a good motivation to anyone. So the Chinese government doesn't give me money. I don't get any money from the Chinese government. I don't spy for them. Look at me. What qualifications do I have to spy? Spy on what? I don't even live in India. I don't live in Dharamsala. I don't live with the Dalai Lama. I don't live in the monastery. What is there for me to spy on? Even if the Chinese government was to pay me to spy on what? Create what problem? Create what schism? I don't need to create schism in Tibetan society. Tibetan society has schism from day one. I mean, we lost our country not because we were doing a good job. We lost our country because our government wasn't doing a good job. So my problem is this, is I don't have an issue with the Tibetan government. I don't have an issue with the Dalai Lama. I don't have an issue with the monastery. I don't have an issue with anyone. I'm a Buddhist monk. I've been a Buddhist monk for over 30 years. I received my practice and teachings from Kyabje Zong Rinpoche. I promised Kyabje Zong Rinpoche to practice. I practiced Dorje Shugden because Zong Rinpoche gave me the teachings, and Zong Rinpoche got it from his guru, Trijang Rinpoche. That is all. And Dorje Shugden practitioners are scapegoated to be Chinese spies. They call us Chinese spies, Chinese dogs, Chinese money eaters, Chinese this, Chinese that. Very racist comments, as if China is very bad. I don't think Chinese people are bad. I think Chinese people are equal to every other person. And I think, as a Tibetan, I think other Tibetans should stop criticizing China. I think Tibetans should stop criticizing China. Not all Tibetans do, some. And I think the Tibetan leadership should stop criticizing China and stop saying negative things. You know why? Because Tibet is under China. And the fate of our 6 million beautiful Tibetans in Tibet depend on the Chinese government. And so if the Chinese government is happy, then things will be very good in Tibet and all over China. But if people in China or citizens of a country make trouble, the government has to clamp down. That's the way it is. I'm not debating whether China, I'm not debating whether Tibet was sovereign or not sovereign. I'm not into all that. That's way before I was born. What I'm saying is the beautiful people in Tibet deserve happiness. The beautiful Tibetan people outside of Tibet deserve to go to Tibet and meet their relatives. I have relatives there I've never met. And that depends on the Chinese government. So if we are dependent on someone like the Chinese government, wouldn't it be more intelligent to talk nicely to them, to make friends with them, to reach out? I mean, look, the Tibetan government wants to make friends with America, wants to make friends with UK, with Switzerland, with Germany, Canada, Australia. That's great. But you know what? What's most important is to make friends with China. Whether you believe they have human rights abuses or they don't have human rights abuses or whatever, that's besides the point. The point is it's still dependent on China, and Tibetans must make friends with China. Our Tibetan government must reach out to China. We must become friends with China, and we must somehow make it that His Holiness the Dalai Lama can return back to Tibet to see his homeland, to the 6 million people there can meet His Holiness and receive his blessings, and the 6 million people there can have an audience with His Holiness. We have all been very, very lucky to have met His Holiness the Dalai Lama, to receive teachings from him, to also get his blessings, and to also see him on the radio, hear him on the radio, see him on the internet, on the YouTube now. We're very lucky we can do that. But those 6 million Tibetans in Tibet really love His Holiness the Dalai Lama, as I do, and they all wish to see His Holiness the Dalai Lama very much. So the way to make that happen is to make friends with China, not kowtow, but make friends. And I think if the Tibetan government talks well to China, to reach out and stop criticizing them with every Western media, newspaper, television, internet, to criticize China. China's got human rights abuses, China's hurting Tibet, China's doing this, China's doing that, China's doing that. Look, they probably are doing or not doing whatever you're saying. But the point is, by keep embarrassing China, you're not going to make them happy. Chinese people China and Chinese people are one of the greatest civilizations of this earth without any denial. And they have faith and they want dignity. So if we keep putting them down, it's not going to benefit us. If you want to take a loan from the bank, you don't sit there and say negative things of a bank all day, all night, and protest against them and say all kinds of nasty things to the bank, would you? You would have to be nice to the bank, compliment the president, go in there, maybe bring some snacks, bring some flowers to the vice president, and get your loan. You're not going to sit there and say all kinds of nasty things and negative things about the bank and then say, can I have a loan? Same thing. So what am I saying? I personally love the Dalai Lama. I personally love Tibetans, my people. I also respect Chinese. I've been a very great admirer of Chinese culture and its greatness, and China has become a major superpower. So, you don't treat them like backwater third world country. They are a major superpower. Every country in the world wants to be friends with China and make relations with China. So, who is Tibet? We don't even have our country. So the best thing to do while His Holiness is still alive, we're very lucky he's alive, is we have to reach out to China. And if I may say humbly, His Holiness must reach out to China and make friends so that we can all unite. Now, I practice Dorje Shugden. I practice Dorje Shugden because I made a commitment to my Guru. Kyabje Zong Rinpoche is not as famous as the Dalai Lama. Kyabje Zong Rinpoche's rank is not as high as the Dalai Lama. Kyabje Zong Rinpoche doesn't have as many students as the Dalai Lama. Kyabje Zong Rinpoche's Ladrang is not as big as the Dalai Lama. And Kyabje Zong Rinpoche's secular power was not as big as the Dalai Lama. But you know what? Kyabje Zong Rinpoche is my Guru. And whether he is popular, well-known, has a lot of power or not, he is my Guru. And I'm going to follow him till the end of my life. The Dalai Lama is also one of my Gurus, but not my root Guru. The Dalai Lama tells me to stop doing Dorje Shugden's practice. Kyabje Zong Rinpoche told me to do Dorje Shugden's practice. Now, by Tibetan tradition, this is most important. If a Lama asks you to do something and you cannot do it, you have to excuse yourself and say, I'm sorry, Your Eminence, I am not able to do what you're asking me to do, so I have to not be able to do it. Please forgive me. You say it respectfully. So if Zong Rinpoche was alive, then I can go to Zong Rinpoche and say to him, the Dalai Lama is asking me to stop doing Dorje Shugden practice. You gave it to me. What shall I do? And if the Zong Rinpoche says to me, oh, you don't have to do it, I release you, then there's no negative karma, I'm released. You know, Dorje Shugden is not important at all. What's more important is my Guru's, my promise to my Guru. I repeat, Dorje Shugden is not important at all. Dorje Shugden is Manjushri, he's a Bodhisattva, he never gets angry, he never punishes anyone, he never hurts anyone, he never damages anyone. Never. That's what my Gurus told me. So, Dorje Shugden is not important at all. My promise to my Guru is important. Kyabje Zong Rinpoche told me, Kyabje Zong Rinpoche told me to practice Dorje Shugden, and I promised Kyabje Zong Rinpoche in 1983 I will practice Dorje Shugden for the rest of my life. I repeat, Kyabje Zong Rinpoche told me to practice Dorje Shugden in 1983 and gave me the initiation, and I swore to Kyabje Zong Rinpoche for my life that I will practice Dorje Shugden in 1983. In 1996, after Kyabje Zong Rinpoche has passed away, His Holiness the Dalai Lama requested all of us to give up Dorje Shugden. So, that's how many years later? 13? 13, right? I was told to give up. So, since I cannot ask Kyabje Zong Rinpoche to give up Dorje Shugden, I can ask His Holiness to excuse me from giving up Dorje Shugden. I repeat, since I cannot ask Kyabje Zong Rinpoche to excuse me from doing Dorje Shugden practice, I have to ask the Guru that's alive to excuse me from giving up Dorje Shugden. You see, Dalai Lama, His Holiness the Dalai Lama is asking us to give up Dorje Shugden. Zong Rinpoche is telling us to practice Dorje Shugden. It's not a matter of which Guru is higher, which Guru is the king, which Guru is more popular. Guru and Guru is same. Zong Rinpoche and Dalai Lama in spiritual practice is same. They're both living Buddhas to me. Zong Rinpoche is a Buddha, Dalai Lama is a Buddha. I always visualize him as a Buddha. So in spiritual terms, they're equal. In spiritual meditation, they're equal. When I do my meditations daily on them, they're equal. Not one is higher. On a secular level, the Dalai Lama is the king and Zong Rinpoche is a High Lama. So a king has more power than a High Lama, or a ruler, or a leader. I don't say king lightly. I just say His Holiness is our spiritual leader, and I'm sorry, secular leader. Now, since both Gurus are giving me instructions, Zong Rinpoche is giving me instructions to practice Dorje Shugden, and Dalai Lama is giving me instructions not to practice Dorje Shugden. Since both Gurus are giving me instructions, and both instructions conflict, one says to do and not do, I have to ask both Gurus' permission to follow their instruction. That means, in order to follow Zong Rinpoche's instruction, I must be accepted from Dalai Lama's instruction. In order to follow Dalai Lama's instruction, I must receive permission from Zong Rinpoche to follow. So I'm bound by two lamas. So, since Zong Rinpoche has passed away, there's no way I can ask him to be excused from Dorje Shugden's practice. So I only have one choice, to ask the Dalai Lama to excuse me from giving up Dorje Shugden's practice. So my decision to continue doing Dorje Shugden's practice is not a political reason. It's not motivated by being stubborn. It is because I made a promise to Kyabje Zong Rinpoche. You see, if the Dalai Lama said to me, never practice Dorje Shugden before I met Zong Rinpoche, and I made a promise to the Dalai Lama, I will never practice Dorje Shugden. Then later, if I meet Zong Rinpoche, then I can say to him, no, I can't practice Dorje Shugden because I promised Dalai Lama I won't practice. You see the logic? So, if later on, if the Dalai Lama says, if I meet the Dalai Lama, let's say I met the Dalai Lama first, and he said to me, don't practice Dorje Shugden, and I promised him, Your Holiness, the Dalai Lama, I promise you I will not practice Dorje Shugden. And later, after that, Zong Rinpoche tells me you should practice Dorje Shugden. Then I can tell Sorumji, please excuse me, I made a promise to Dalai Lama that I will not practice Dorje Shugden. You see, because one came before the other. So since I received instructions from Kyabje Sorumji first to practice Dorje Shugden, and then 13 years later, Dalai Lama told us to give up Dorje Shugden. I have to follow the instructions I was given first. Very simple. Well, some people say, well, what's the big deal? You just practice Dorje Shugden and keep quiet. It's not, it is a big deal. It is a big deal because, you know what? I'm not allowed to go back to Ganden Shatse Monastery because I practice Dorje Shugden, and that's my monastery. That's where I belong to. I have donated millions and millions and millions and millions of rupees and properties and statues and food and hospital funds and equipment to Ganden Shatse Monastery. So Ganden Shatse Monastery can accept my donations as a Dorje Shugden practitioner, but they cannot accept me. If you want to be honest about it, Ganden Shatse should refund my money. I mean, if I'm a Dorje Shugden practitioner, I'm contaminated and dirty, then my money should be dirty also. I have raised millions and millions and millions of rupees in the last 20, 30 years for Ganden Shatse Monastery. I put in floors in the prayer hall. I have built their hospitals. I have donated to their. I have donated to their altars. I have donated to their monks. I have bought thousands of books and given monks. I have given hundreds and thousands of statues. I have also given to the monk fund, the food fund, the tuberculosis fund. I have put in water pumps. I have repaired. I have painted. I have done buildings at Ganden Shatse. I have done many, many building projects at Ganden Shatse that I raised money for. So as a Dorje Shugden practitioner, my money is not dirty that I raise, but I'm dirty. It doesn't make sense. So like that, I cannot go to a Tibetan hospital because I practice Dorje Shugden. I cannot go to a Tibetan clinic. I don't want to, but if I want to get a job in the Tibetan government, if I'm qualified, I couldn't get a job because the Tibetan constitution says if you practice Dorje Shugden, that's been amended. If you practice Dorje Shugden, you cannot get a job. I cannot have any of people that I know, like if I have relatives, go to a Tibetan school if I practice Dorje Shugden. And then on top of that, if you practice Dorje Shugden, you are browbeaten and you are accused of being against the Dalai Lama and working for China. Why? Because Tibetan society is very simple. They're my people, so I understand Tibetan people. Tibetan society is very simple. If you don't obey the diktats of the Tibetan government, then they isolate you, they label you anti-Dalai Lama, and then they segregate you, and they browbeat you until you do what they want. If you don't do what they want, they keep you away. It's not a democracy, actually. They think it's a democracy, and I think they're trying the best they can, but it's not a democracy. So, if you go, one of you can put a link on for me, would the Dalai Lama agree with this? I'm going to place here a link, would the Dalai Lama agree with this, and you can look at all the social media I receive from Tibetans, calling me a Chinese spy, a dog, fat, evil, I hate the Dalai Lama, I should die, they want to kill me, because I practice Dorje Shugden. And all the Dorje Shugden practitioners, especially the prominent ones, get that attack. Let me make it simple. If it was advice not to practice, then just give the advice and don't say anything more. But if you give advice not to practice Dorje Shugden, and then you make rules and you put in your constitution and to disallow Dorje Shugden practitioners to be part of Tibetan mainstream, that's not advice. That is 100% segregation. Okay? Dorje Shugden people do not have any representation in the Tibetan parliament. They have no representation. There's a representative for the Pimples. There's a representative, I think now for the Jonangpas, they didn't have before. They are representative for the Kagyus, Sakyas. They have representative for Utsang, for Dokang, from Amdo. They have representative for every section of Tibetan society. but they don't have any representatives of Dorje Shugden people. Why is it that just because we practice Dorje Shugden, we can't be part of mainstream Tibetan society? Why? Because of my religion. What about the Tibetan Christians? There are Tibetan Christians, there are Tibetan Muslims, there are Tibetan people who are atheists. How come they all can join, but Tibetan people cannot? Tibetan Dorje Shugden people cannot. Oh, Tibetan Dorje Shugden wants to harm the Dalai Lama. Tibetan Dorje Shugden wants to kill the Dalai Lama. Tibetan Dorje Shugden wants to bring harm to Tibet. That's not true. There are good Dorje Shugden people, and there are a few bad ones, just like everywhere, every place on this planet. There are people who practice Dorje Shugden who are good, most of them, and there are some Dorje Shugden practitioners who are a little iffy. There are good Tibetan people, bad Tibetan people. There are good Chinese people, bad Chinese people. There are good Christians, there are bad Christians. There are good Hindus and bad Hindus. There are good Indians and a few bad Indians. There's good Americans and bad Americans. You cannot say all Dorje Shugden people are bad, and just because they practice Dorje Shugden is bad. Because you know what? Dorje Shugden's practice didn't start just last week, or last month, or 10 years ago. Dorje Shugden practice started 400 years ago. Let's hypothetically say that Dorje Shugden is an evil spirit and is bad. Well, if a Tibetan wishes to practice an evil spirit, let them. Let them practice an evil spirit. But just because they're Tibetan, they still should enjoy the rights and privileges of any other Tibetan citizen. Tibetan citizens should not yewa chijomare. Tibetan citizens should not be separated because of their religion or their economic background or the district they come, regionalism. They should not be separated. Tibetans should not be separated from mainstream Tibetans and His Holiness the Dalai Lama because of their religion. They should not be. And that is what's happening now. Okay? They have Facebook pages, websites against Dorje Shugden people. Why? Why are Dorje Shugden people segregated from everybody else? How come? You may say, oh, some Dorje Shugden people tried to harm the Dalai Lama. Some Dorje Shugden, I don't know if that's true or not. But that doesn't mean everybody wants to harm somebody. What, Trungpa Rinpoche was a Chinese spy? Sorum Rinpoche was a Chinese spy? Zemer Rinpoche and Lakti Rinpoche, Khensa Rinpoche, Pabongka Rinpoche were Chinese spies? What is everybody saying? That's not possible. I practice Dorje Shugden because Sorum Rinpoche gave it to me. I do not practice Dorje Shugden because I want to harm the Dalai Lama, because I want to harm other people. And let's go even a little deeper. How can the Dalai Lama be harmed by an evil spirit? The Dalai Lama is Chenrenzik. The Dalai Lama is a pure monk. Do you know, if you're a pure monk, if someone's being afflicted by spirits, if you take your robe and you put it on that person will be protected from the evil spirit, because the power of the monk vows protects you from evil spirits. So the Dalai Lama should have zero fears that Dorje Shugden can harm him. People say if you practice Dorje Shugden, it will shorten the Dalai Lama's life. That's impossible. No one can shorten the Dalai Lama's life except the Dalai Lama himself, because he has the power to die and live as and when he likes, because he's a highly attained master. To say Dorje Shugden can harm the Dalai Lama contradicts everything in the scriptures, contradicts Dalai Lama's powers, contradicts Dalai Lama's attainments, contradicts everything you believe in Buddhism. Dalai Lama is a Buddha. Dalai Lama is Chenrenzik, Avalokiteshvara. Dalai Lama cannot be harmed by Dorje Shugden. So if you say you practice Dorje Shugden and harms the Dalai Lama, you are putting the Dalai Lama down. And I refuse to accept that. I refuse to accept Dalai Lama can be harmed. He cannot be harmed. He is a pure monk. Pure monks cannot be harmed by any spirit. So if Dorje Shugden practitioner attended the Dalai Lama's teachings, it would bring no harm to the Dalai Lama. It will bring no damage to the Dalai Lama, or bring no harm and damage at all. Because remember, the ban against Dorje Shugden started in 1996. People, all of us Dorje Shugden practitioners have been attending teachings of the Dalai Lama prior to 1996. And the Dalai Lama was never harmed by any Dorje Shugden practitioner. So if the Dalai Lama can be harmed by Dorje Shugden, what's the point all of us practice and become a Buddha? That means a Buddha can be harmed by Dorje Shugden. Impossible. And if Dorje Shugden is such a bad, evil spirit, instead of creating websites against him, the Tibetan government has a website. You can go to dalalama.com. You can go to CTA's website. They have a whole section about how bad Dorje Shugden is. If Dorje Shugden is such an evil, bad spirit, why doesn't the Dalai Lama and a handful of the highest lamas of Tibet get together and do a ritual and just bind him, control him, and lock him up? Why don't they just do a ritual and separate Dorje Shugden's consciousness and send him to a pure realm? That's what fire pujas are for. I mean, it's a perennial God versus the devil. It's a perennial, how come the devil can create so much mischief in the world and God can't do anything about it? The devil can tempt us into temptation. The devil can make us have affairs. The devil can make us drink. The devil can make us kill. The devil can make us steal. The devil can make us do so many things. I mean, when people keep saying that, it kind of makes God impotent. I mean, if God is so powerful, wouldn't it be so simple? Just destroy the devil and all our problems are gone. The problem for humanity is gone because all of humanity's problems created by the devil, right? In the Abrahamic religions, they say that. In the Abrahamic religions, they say that the devil is a source of all evil and all evil that's created on this earth. So my simple thing, instead of punishing Sodom and Gomorrah, 40 days and nights of Noah's Ark, instead of punishing all the sinners and they have to confess, just get rid of the source of the sin, the devil. If we get rid of the devil, nobody will sin, everybody will go to heaven. So simple. Instead of talking about Dorje Shugden, condemning Dorje Shugden, creating websites against Dorje Shugden, spending millions of rupees on creating books against Dorje Shugden, the Tibetan government does that. Instead of talking about Dorje Shugden in public talks, just do a powerful fire puja, Jinse, and destroy Dorje Shugden and send him to a pure realm. Because we have rituals to bind evil spirits. We have rituals to destroy evil spirits and send their consciousness to a better plane. You don't kill them, you destroy them so their consciousness to go to a better plane. We have rituals to do that. We can do that according to Vajrakilaya. We can do that according to Yamataka. We can do that according to Bandhammo, Torgyal. There's so many rituals to do the Kalarupa. We can do that. So, why, if Dorje Shugden is an evil spirit, why is it the Tibetan lineage, or the Tibetan leaders just do a ritual and destroy him? And once Dorje Shugden is destroyed, if people want to continue to pray to him, let them pray because they're praying to a dead God. They can't do anything anyway, right? If Dorje Shugden was destroyed, he'd be a dead God. He'd be a dead spirit, a dead ghost, dead whatever. So if he's dead, if people want to make statues and pray to him, nothing happens. For example, if I have a picture of my grandmother and she's dead, she is dead, and I pray to her, and I pray to her to harm people, to destroy people, nobody needs to worry, she's dead. It's a picture of her. So if I make statues of my grandmother, if I make pictures of my grandmother, I make temples dedicated to my grandmother, and I do long, lengthy meditations and offerings and rituals to my grandmother to harm somebody, let me. Nothing will happen because she's dead. So what is there to worry about? Similarly, if the Buddhas are so powerful, if Bandhammo, Nechung, Jamsing, Zangba, Damsin Chögye, Gombo Chadru, Kasa, Chögye Chinansum, Gonkar, Namse, Lasopa, all of these protectors are so powerful. Why doesn't the Dalai Lama and all these anti-Dorje Shugden people get together, do one big party, one big puja, and destroy Dorje Shugden, and then after that they don't have to worry about it, and all of us Tibetans can unite and be friends and be together? I mean, are you telling me Dorje Shugden is more powerful than the Dalai Lama? Is Dorje Shugden more powerful than Buddha and Bandhammo? Look, Buddhists have to go around with all kinds of people out there. People who pray to demons and spirits and voodoo and ghosts, people who are good, who are bad. They should be more afraid of all of that, not Dorje Shugden. Not Dorje Shugden. You see, when you say Dorje Shugden are bad, then there are many people, millions of us, who have taken commitment from our Guru not to give up Dorje Shugden. And we can't give up, not because we want to go against the Dalai Lama, it's because we made a promise to our Guru. So we can't give up that promise. We cannot break our promise. You know what? Let me tell you the truth. If I write a letter to the Dalai Lama and I go and say, I'm sorry, Dorje Shugden is bad, Saramji is wrong, and I give up Dorje Shugden and I want to come and confess to you, I am sure the Dalai Lama will accept that. And then guess what? I start attending the Dalai Lama's teachings. I start attending more of his talks. And then I take pictures with him, and I put pictures of me and the Dalai Lama together all over Facebook, all over my blog, all over the Twitter. Guess what? I'll be an instant celebrity overnight. Wow! Tsem is a great Lama. He follows a Dalai Lama. He is great. He is fabulous. You know what? I'll get sponsors. I'll get friends. I'll get more students. My center will grow. I'll be popular. I'll be more well-known. More people will follow me. I'll have a good name. And guess what? All of the 8 worldly dharmas will be fulfilled. I'll get everything. So why don't I want that? Why don't I want to be well-known, to be loved, to go to Dalai Lama's teachings, to not be hated, not to be berated? Why don't I want that? Of course I want that. Of course I would like to attend to Dalai Lama's teachings. Of course I would like to be accepted by all of my people, the Tibetans. Of course I would like to have the freedom to go back to my monastery. Of course I'd like to go to the Tibetan hospitals to get their Ayurvedic medicines because they're very good. Of course I like all of that. So what am I holding out on? Very simple. I made a promise to my root teacher, Kyabje Zong Rinpoche, and I can't break that promise. That is all. So other people can scorn me, other people can put me down, other people can criticize me, other people can harm me or do whatever they want against me, but I can't give up my promise to Saramji. I cannot give that up. And there are many, many practitioners out there that feel exactly the same. I do not want any harm to come to His Holiness the Dalai Lama. My faith and respect to the Dalai Lama is intact. I wish very much I can attend the Dalai Lama's teachings. I wish very much I can meet His Holiness and make offerings to him. I wish it can be like it was before 1996 ban. The Tibetans are divided, our people are divided, our monasteries are divided because a large group of us refuse to give up Dorje Shugden. And I don't think we should be forced to give up Dorje Shugden because we are Tibetans. We are one. We need to be united. We need to be united to preserve our culture, our language, our religion, our way of life, our customs. We need to be united to do that. The Tibetans today are fragmented. The Tibetans today are broken apart. The Tibetans today are having so much schism inside. This has to stop because we need to stop fighting due to regionalism. We need to stop fighting due to religion and religious differences. It doesn't matter what we are. We are Tibetans and we need to be united. Tibetans should celebrate each other's differences. Tibetans should celebrate we have different religions. We come from different parts of Tibet. We come from interracial Tibetan marriages. We come from different types of educational backgrounds and economic backgrounds. We should celebrate the differences we have in Tibetan society and not penalize the differences and segregate people who are different. It's the 21st century. Things must change. So, very simple. When I was 18, back in 1983, I am 52 now. I asked Kyabje Zong Rinpoche, what shall I practice as my protector? He said to me, if you want, I will give you my protector. And I accepted immediately. And it's been 30 plus years, and I've kept my promise to Kyabje Zong Rinpoche. Kyabje Zong Rinpoche was not an ordinary person. He was a highly realized yogi, a Mahasiddha. He had great tantric abilities. He was very clairvoyant, and he was a very great master and erudite scholar. He was an extremely, extremely powerful practitioner, and he was respected throughout the Gelugpa world of Buddhism. His name was extremely well known. Someone like that doesn't make mistakes and just pick a wrong protector. So, I have been asked many times why I practice Dorje Shugden, why I continue to practice, and I've taken the time, about 3-4 hours now, to explain. It may be a little bit long-winded, but I think that if anybody listens to it, they'll see some logic behind it. All Dorje Shugden Tibetans, including myself, would like to have harmony with all the other Tibetans. We are all Tibetans. We all belong to the same race. We all respect the Dalai Lama as our leader. But we all have our own religion. We all have our own regions. We all have our own individual likes and dislikes. And we should be allowed to practice what we like and still be allowed to meet the Dalai Lama, to go get his teachings, and also to meet him. If not his teachings, at least his secular gatherings. We have zero representation in the Tibetan government as Dorje Shugden practitioners. Okay? So, I have never heard, and I know many, hundreds of Dorje Shugden practitioners who want to harm the Dalai Lama. I have never heard of a Dorje Shugden practitioner that says they wish to harm Tibet, or they wish Tibet not to have what it deserves. I've never heard that. I myself am a Dorje Shugden practitioner, but above Dorje Shugden, I believe in the Buddha, I believe in the Dharma, and I believe in the Sangha. And on my monk vows, I've taken from His Holiness, and they are intact. And I've taken bodhicitta vows, and I've taken tantric vows, and they are intact. So as a tantric practitioner, as a Buddhist practitioner, my priority and my focus is Lord Buddha, and I follow the Tsongkhapa tradition. My Dharma protector is Dorje Shugden. This was signed to me by my guru, and no other guru in the world, no matter who they are, has the right to override my personal guru's instruction to me. That is between me and him. And I should not be ostracized, segregated, prejudiced against, derated, berated, and also hated and spat upon because of my religion. I didn't do anything wrong. Nothing. So, all of us Tibetans should be united. All of us Tibetans should unite and be harmonious to preserve our religion, to preserve our language and our culture and our background. I'm not very good in Tibetan reading and writing. I'm not very good in my Tibetan culture because I've been away from my Tibetan culture for 30, 40 years. I was born outside of Tibet. And there are many Tibetans like me out there, hundreds of us, who are the same predicament as me. I love His Holiness, the Dalai Lama. I have always loved him. I've always respected him. And I continue to love him. And I hope His Holiness will allow me the great honor and the pleasure to meet him in the future, or to attend his talks, and that I may prostrate to him. I hope all of us Tibetans will be united, and I hope all of us Tibetans will disregard what protectors we practice, what religion we are. I mean, there are Tibetans who are Christian, there are Tibetans who are Muslim, there are Tibetans who are Buddhist, there are Tibetans who are Kagyu, Satya, Nyingma, we have Tibetans who are Gelug, we have Tibetans who are a mixture, we have Tibetans who are Pempo, we have Tibetans who are Jonangpa, we have Tibetans who are Shugdenpa, we have Tibetans that are atheists, we have black Tibetans, white Tibetans, we have mixed Tibetans, we have Utsan Tibetans, we have Kham Tibetans, we have poor Tibetans, rich Tibetans, fat Tibetans, skinny Tibetans, male Tibetans, female Tibetans, old Tibetans, young Tibetans. We have Tibetans that live abroad, we have Tibetans that live in India. I mean, we are all still Tibetans, and we should all unite, and we should not look at each other's religion. I have lost many friends because they're afraid to associate with me. Because they associate with me, everybody else will associate with them. We should all unite as Tibetans to preserve our culture and our religion and our unique way of life. We should all make friends with China. That's not my job. I'm not going to do that. But the Tibetan government in exile in Dharamsala should make friends with the Chinese government, make friends for the sake of the people. I'm not interested in politics. I'm not interested in China-Tibetan politics. I'm not interested in any of that. All I'm interested in is that a sector of Tibetans, those Shinto practitioners, are suffering tremendously because of the ban. And I would like to request His Holiness and the Tibetan government to accept us and to unite us and to bring us together again, just like before the ban in 1996. Let's be harmonious. Let's work together. Let's not make differences in religion. It will not help our culture that's dying. That's very important. So today's talk was about why I practice Dorje Shuden, and I will talk about more in the future to share with you. If you would like to read more, you can go to tsemrinpoche.com, which I express a lot of my views. And I have a team of wonderful, dedicated, hardworking, young, brilliant writers and researchers that work with me to help me get out all the powerful articles that we have to benefit others. Again, I mean no disrespect to His Holiness. I mean no disrespect to the Tibetan government in exile. I mean no disrespect to any Tibetan or anyone, but give us the freedom of religion. Don't just say to us you can practice, but stay away. Say to us you can practice what you want, but let's unite. Okay? Thank you for listening to me, and I'm going to conclude for today. Daso jine sabi ge wandi chandan zhuwa gu na ga ma dan Kyabje Zong Rinpoche dan bi hin bu din du sa she sho jan ju sin jo Rinpoche ma jian ba na chi gi ji chia ba ne ba ba yang go ne go nu pe wa sho dong ni dong wa Rinpoche ma jian ba na chi gi ji chia ba ne ba ba yang go ne go nu pe wa sho ge wa di nu de da la ma san ji ju gu ne zhuo chi ge ma lo ba de sa la go ma ra sho Kanshi Jamba Zangi Jinagi Bazinko Zilesi Jinano, Zozen Gajin Shuden Ganta, Denson Godangela, Charles May His Holiness the Dalai Lama have long life and live to 1,000 years. May the Tibetan government have success and unite the people and gain wisdom and compassion to see that the separation of Dorje Shuden and non-Dorje Shuden people are not beneficial to our cause. May Tibet and China become friends. May the 6 million Tibetans, along with the world, have peace and happiness and unity and all get along very well. We're all human beings underneath everything. Thank you very much.